The metal taste in my mouth intensified as my father's words cut through the silence of our living room. "Layla gets the chair. She's our guest," he said, not even looking at me as he gestured for his girlfriend's daughter to take my seat. It was the custom recliner I'd received for my birthday last year. I stood frozen, my fingers still gripping the armrest of my chair. Seconds earlier, I'd won the childish race Layla had initiated, reaching the chair first after we returned from the kitchen with snacks. Now my victory meant nothing. My father's eyes were fixed on Robin, his girlfriend of barely a year, seeking her approval as she stretched across our couch. Layla smirked as she settled into my chair, the smugness on her 12-year-old face making my skin burn. "My name is Olivia, I'm 15, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes walking away is the most powerful revenge." The chair incident wasn't the first time. For months I'd been watching as my father systematically chose Robin and Layla over me in every situation. They technically had their own apartment, but somehow were always at our house, my house, the one where I split time with my dad after my parents' divorce. The betrayals had started small. Robin would accidentally use my bathroom products. Layla would borrow my books without asking. But things escalated quickly. I still remember the shock of waking up one night to find Layla in my bed. I'd kicked her out immediately, only to be lectured the next morning about how I needed to share, because I had a full-size bed while Layla was sleeping on the pull-out couch her mother had brought. My father's expression as he scolded me was becoming all too familiar. Stern, but with that pleading look that said, "Please don't make this difficult for me." Each time I visited another piece of my space, my belongings or my time with my father was sacrificed at the altar of his new relationship, but it was the blanket that broke me. My mother had surprised me with it after a particularly difficult week at school. A soft plush throw with my favorite hockey team's logo emblazoned across it. Something so simple shouldn't have meant so much, but it did. It represented the small ways my mother noticed me, even when I didn't say anything. I'd brought it to my dad's house, excited to use it during our movie night, something we'd done together since I was little. I'd wrapped myself in it while waiting for him to join me, but he wasn't alone when he came to the living room. Robin and Layla trailed behind him, Robin already discussing what movie they should watch. "Oh, is that new?" Robin asked, eyeing my blanket. Before I could answer, Layla was already reaching for it. "Cool. I love this team too." I pulled it closer. "My mom just got it for me." My father's face tightened. "Olivia, you need to share. It's not fair that you got something new and Layla didn't." "But it's mine," I said, hating how childish I sounded. "Don't be selfish," he responded, his voice carrying that edge that meant the discussion was over. I handed over half the blanket, watching as Layla spread it across her lap, covering more of herself than she left for me. Throughout the movie, she kept pulling it further onto her side until I was left with just a corner. My father noticed, but said nothing. That became the pattern. Everything I owned was communal property, but Layla's belongings were sacrosanct. One afternoon, she was reading one of my favorite books, the signed copy my grandmother had given me before she passed away. Robin and my dad got into an argument, and suddenly they were leaving. Layla tried to take my book with her. "No," I said firmly. "That's special to me. You can finish it next time." My father erupted. "Just let her take it." "Why do you have to make everything difficult?" They eventually made up that night, so Layla returned the book, but the message was clear. My belongings, my boundaries, and my feelings were negotiable. The final betrayal came on a day I'd been looking forward to for weeks. My father and I had planned our annual ice fishing trip, a tradition we'd maintained since I was 7. It was one of the few times I felt connected to him, standing on the frozen lake in comfortable silence, just the two of us against the cold. When I arrived at his house that morning, bundled in my warmest clothes and vibrating with excitement, I found Robin and Layla in the kitchen, also dressed for cold weather. "Ready for our adventure?" Robin asked cheerfully. I looked at my father, confusion evident on my face. He avoided my eyes. "Dad?" I asked, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I thought this was our thing. He sighed that way adults do when they think you're being difficult. Sometimes we need to compromise, Olivia. Robin and Layla wanted to experience it too. The entire trip was ruined. Robin complained about the cold every 5 minutes. Layla kept saying the fish were gross and asking when we could leave. After less than 2 hours compared to our usual 6-hour expeditions, my father packed everything up and announced we were heading home. "Sometimes you have to compromise," he repeated as we drove back, as if that explained everything. I sat in silence watching the snowy landscape blur past the window, realizing that compromise in my father's vocabulary meant I was the only one expected to give anything up. When I got home, my mother noticed my mood immediately. After I explained what happened, anger flashed across her face. She called my father, and I could hear their heated exchange from my bedroom. Later, he called me, repeating his line about compromise, and adding that I needed to adjust to not being an only child anymore. That night, I made my decision. I was supposed to go back to his house in 3 days, but what was the point? I never spent time with just him anymore. Every visit was the Robin and Layla show, with my father as their eager audience and me as the inconvenient extra. When I told my mother I didn't want to go, she studied my face carefully. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "It's your choice," she said simply. My father didn't take it well. He called, insisting I was just used to being spoiled and that I couldn't run away whenever there was a problem. His family started calling too. Aunts and uncles suddenly concerned about family bonds they'd never seemed to care about before. Then came his final play. He texted me a photo of my Nintendo Switch, which I'd left at his house. "You'll get this back when you come over to talk things out," he wrote. The Switch I'd saved up for months to buy myself. That's when I realized my father wasn't interested in understanding me. He wanted compliance. The father who had taught me to stand up for myself was now angry that I was doing exactly that. I gathered my courage and called him. When he answered, his voice was smug, probably thinking his hostage negotiation with my Switch had worked. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him, keeping my voice steady. "I'm glad to hear that," he replied. "You're right. I can't run away from problems," I continued. "That's why I'm addressing this one directly. I'm not coming over until you understand that forcing me to give up everything that matters to me isn't compromise. It's not my job to make Layla happy at my own expense." There was silence on the other end. "As for my Switch," I added, "you can keep it or return it. Either way, I've learned something valuable about what matters more to you." I hung up before he could respond. That was 3 weeks ago. My aunts and uncles still call sometimes, telling me I'm being difficult, that I should give my dad another chance. My mother offered to take me to pick up my belongings, and we did. I packed everything that mattered to me while my father watched in silence. He returned my Switch the next day, leaving it on our porch without a note. Last week, he texted asking if we could talk, just the two of us at a cafe halfway between our houses. I haven't responded yet. Not because I don't want to rebuild our relationship, but because, for the first time, I'm setting the terms. Maybe that's the thing about family betrayals. The revenge isn't some elaborate scheme or public humiliation. It's standing in your truth and refusing to participate in your own erasure. It's realizing that walking away doesn't mean giving up. Sometimes it means recognizing your own worth when others won't. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, know this. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. The most powerful statement isn't always what you say. It's what you refuse to accept.